The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Tolly Anderson. We begin with your 17 Crime Watch. Bakersfield businessman and former city council candidate Rajvir Gill is under arrest, accused of offering money to several people to shoot others that he was in disputes with. Bakersfield police say Gill was arrested Saturday on 6 counts of solicitation to commit criminal acts. According to police, the 60-year-old not only tried to pay other people to shoot others, but allegedly offered someone money to burn down a Sikh temple. Stephen Gibbs, an attorney for 2 temple board members who were on Gill's alleged hit list, says Gill has a restraining order to stay away from the temple and the people he allegedly tried to have killed. Gill ran unsuccessfully for Bakersfield's Ward 7 seat last fall.
And the couple charged in the deaths of their adopted sons are back in court today. Motions in the case against Trezell and Jacqueline West continue this week. And yesterday, the court heard the names of who will testify during the trial. Prosecutors allege 3-year-old Orson and 4-year-old Oren were killed about 3 months before the West reported them missing in December 2020. The boys' bodies have never been found, and jury selection is scheduled to begin March 20th. Now, the jurors are now deliberating in the penalty phase retrial of convicted killer David Keith Rogers. Rogers was convicted in 1988 for murdering 2 prostitutes, Janine Benedende and Tracy Clark. Now, Rogers' death sentence was overturned in 2019, but his murder convictions stand. Jurors are now deciding whether he should be resentenced to death or to life without parole.
And now to some developing news. An investigation is underway after a deadly crash on Interstate 5. It happened around 7:30 last night on the Twisselman Road off-ramp. According to the California Highway Patrol, the crash involved a semi-truck and a sedan. But that's all we know so far. It's not yet clear what caused the crash or if anyone was hurt. The person who died has not been identified.
Here at home, we're learning more about Kern County's projected $16 million budget surplus. Now, county officials informed the Board of Supervisors of the extra cash during a mid-year budget report, warning it's a one-time boost that should be allocated carefully. County officials explained this $16 million extra dollars is coming partly from unaccounted for projects, but most of it is from an unexpected boost in sales tax revenues due to inflation. County officials noted the biggest increase in sales tax revenue is coming from gasoline specifically. Officials emphasize this one-time boost in funds should not be tied to long-term operations. While nothing has been decided yet, one idea officials are considering is putting some of the surplus revenue toward updating the county's 911 communication system.
All in all, the surplus it's great to have, right? It's not a deficit. We're on a good pathway, and I think we're fortunate. We look at that entire $16 million as extraordinary, really one-time in nature.
Meantime, the Bakersfield City Council will hear its mid-year budget report tonight. According to the agenda, officials will make recommendations to the council on how to spend about $7 million in public safety and vital service sales tax revenue.
Officials are condemning the attack and kidnapping of 4 Americans by a cartel last week in Mexico, which left 2 people dead. With 2 survivors now back on U.S. soil, new details are emerging about the victims and why they were in that border town.
The episode now is a stark warning to other Americans considering to travel to the area at the height of spring break season. NBC's Drew Petrimo reports.
2 survivors back on American soil getting treatment after a vicious attack. The wife of a surviving victim speaking by phone with NBC News.
I didn't know anything until Sunday morning when the FBI came. Everything just seemed so surreal to me.
Family member say Latavia Washington McGee, seen here in an ambulance, was joined by a cousin, Shaeed Woodard, and friends Zindell Brown and Eric James Williams. They took the days-long trip from their homes in South Carolina to Mexico for a cosmetic medical procedure. The four crossed the border into Matamoros, Mexico on Friday. Shortly after, gunmen fired at their white minivan and loaded the victims into the bed of a pickup truck. U.S. officials confirming 2 of the victims died from the attack.
We're providing all appropriate assistance to them and their families, and we extend our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased.
Matamoros is in the Mexican state of Tamaulipas, the site of ongoing violence between warring factions of the Gulf drug cartel.
They have no respect for local law enforcement there, or there's collusion on the part of the law enforcement officials in Tamaulipas.
The DEA and the FBI are doing everything possible to dismantle and disrupt and ultimately prosecute the leaders of the cartels.
The wife of the injured survivor telling NBC News she spoke with her husband just before he went into surgery. Thankful he's alive, but heartbroken for the families of the victims who died. The governor of Tamaulipas said one person who was guarding the kidnapping victims was arrested. They were found in a wooden house in Matamoros. Over the past 3 days, investigators say they had been moved to several locations to create confusion. Drew Petrimo, NBC News, Washington.
Turning now to the state capitol as California grapples with how to respond to the homelessness crisis. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are calling for more accountability for how state funds are spent to address the issue. Folsom Republican Assemblymember Josh Hoover wrote a letter to the Joint Legislative Audit Committee asking for a formal audit to investigate where billions of state dollars to address homelessness over the last 4 years ended up. That, as Democratic Assemblymember Luz Rivas is behind a proposal to require local governments who use state funds for homeless-related matters to publicly share their goals. If those goals are not met, the funds could be transferred to other local governments. Governor Newsom says he will not deliver a traditional State of the State address this year. Instead of the usual speech, the legislatures inside the Assembly chamber, the governor instead will embark on a 4-day tour across California to present new policy initiatives on issues like homelessness and housing. The tour is set to begin next Thursday, March 16th, and will include stops in various regions. Exact locations have not been announced. After the trip wraps up on March 19th, Governor Newsom will send a letter to the legislature to formally share in writing the state of our state. Legislative Democratic leadership are praising the move. Top Republicans are calling it a distraction.
In other state headline news, after several hours of debate, the LA City Council last night delayed a vote on whether to accept the donation of a $278,000 robotic police dog. Dozens of speakers criticized the donation, calling it a weaponization of the police department, and said it would ultimately harm Black and brown communities. Those who backed the donation say it won't be used for surveillance, weapons, or random patrols. They claim it would only be used by SWAT officers in limited situations. Now, the issue will return to the council in just 60 days.
Your time now is 5:34. Now to the San Bernardino Mountains, where help is finally on the way for many people stuck in their homes because of the historic storm. Our sister station was there yesterday when CAL FIRE crews went door to door checking on residents, making sure they were safe and had access to food and medicine. Shelby Nelson reports.
Fire department. We're just kind of doing warfare checks on the neighborhood here.
Oh, thank you.
Food, water, or medical attention.
It's help that couldn't come soon enough, even if just for peace of mind.
Glad to see you.
We followed a CAL FIRE crew going door to door checking in on residents who have been stuck at their homes buried in snow. It was the first day neighbors along Venus Way and Crestline say they've seen a plow.
It's like a miracle. At this point, we're like, oh my God, the plow is coming.
Jules DeGasperi was outside shoveling his car out. Like dozens of other mountain residents, he hasn't been able to get around and found himself having to hike just to get groceries.
It's been really long. It's been 2 weeks of being trapped in with the snow. You know, at some point you have to surrender to the elements and just like accept that it's going to be a while and you have to wait for the help to come in. There was 4 days without electricity and that was pretty tough.
At the neighbor's home above him, CAL FIRE crews assessed the damage after a tree toppled on to Trisha Jacobs' home.
I was actually on the couch just listening to everything crack. Yeah.
And then what?
And I couldn't go out because it was so dark and raining and snowing.
And above her, neighbors are going on a week without power because of this. Down power lines thanks to a fallen tree. The plow's clearing the way so that SoCal Edison can get through and repair the damage.
When it went down, it just like took everything, ripped everything out. And I don't know about that pole down there, if that might have gone out before But yeah, everything kind of went at once.
Lots of progress with much more to be done.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.